Welcome to First Things First. I'm Jenna Wolfe. That is the Hall of Famer Cris Carter. That is Nick Wright. Yes, we do all that.
Everybody. With the fist bump today, that's like.
I realized that since we changed seats, we've done fewer fist bumps. One of the reasons we changed seats was so I could include Jenna in the fist bump, so I wanted to bring it back. Is that cool with you?
Yeah, my boss told me they wanted me on this side.
Well, yeah, they did. I'm adding a little extra reason to it.
Guys,
we can get rid of the fist bump if you like. Jenna, just you and me from now on.
Oh, gosh, the fist pump. 3 days, guys, after that Monday night game, and we are still talking about the fallout from it. There was a lot in Monday night's vicious one between the Steelers and the Bengals. Steelers wide receiver Juju Smith-Schuster was suspended 1 game for his hit on Vontaze Burfict. Now, many players said many words this week about it, none passionate enough to lead our show, like Steelers safety Mike Mitchell. Take a listen.
At the end of the day, this is football. If you want to see flag football, then let's take our pads off. That would make it easier for me, because now I don't got to wear heavy. But give us flags for me to pull off, because that way I know what we're playing. You know, I signed up to play full-speed contact football, and we're not doing that. I feel like I got to ask a guy, hey, are you ready for me to hit you right now before I hit you? And that's crazy. I'm going to mess around and get hurt trying to protect an offensive player because he's running an over route. Damn it, your quarterback shouldn't have threw that ball messed up. That happened 2 years ago. I'm not joking at all. Andy Dalton threw a ball to Tyler Eifert 2 years ago. Tyler Eifert had to dive for it. I was aiming for his gut. But if he don't dive, he don't get in the head. That's 50 grand out of my pocket, though, because Andy throws a bad ball. Make that make sense. If you don't know me, if you never had a conversation with me, don't judge us by what you see on football, because football is my competitive side.
You know, Cece, as soon as I heard that, I thought immediately, you know, what would someone who played the game think, because you were on the other side of it? He is a safety. You played wide receiver. I'm just curious. What was your reaction to Mitchell's comments?
My reaction is not over from, it's not from being on an offensive player compared to a defensive player. First thing is, in defense of Mike Mitchell, playing safety in the NFL, in the new era of the new rules, post-concussion information, it's the hardest position to actually play with the rules. How to judge if a wide receiver or running back is going to get down where the ball is, trying to make a hit on him, trying to stay within what they call the strike zone. It's very, very difficult. But 2 years ago, if they were playing flag football, he wouldn't have been making $50,000, so they wouldn't have been able to fine him $50,000 for the hit on Tyler Eifert that was Andy Dalton's fault. A lot of these things, yes, they are. Where the quarterback threw the ball, the wide receivers adjusting, tight ends adjusting to the ball. It's very, very difficult to play in the NFL. But everyone's adjusting. And the players that aren't adjusting, they're out of the league. So this is his choice. These are the rules now. All eras of sport have adjusted to different rules. It's not just the NFL. And for me, it's not just about the rules, because I believe the overall safety. Now, Mike, he's in his moment.
Yeah.
He's in the league. All right? I'm 16 years removed from the league. I've had several friends of mine, dear, dear friends of mine, who have taken their life. After they died, autopsy said, they had severe CTE. So for me, for a current player, not to look at what we've been through as a football community, he's a little naive to where he is right now. Like right now, where the league is, the amount of money they're paying the league, the overall labor piece of the league. Now, there might be some contrary reports that the league's not at an all-time high, but it is at an all-time high as far as players, the amount of money, the visibility, everything that is afforded to the modern-day NFL player. And I'm glad someone took it out of the players' hands to make the game safer, because you know something, Mike Mitchell? You deserve to play the same game that I played, and also kids after us. So if we don't change the rules, we can't leave it up to the players, because the players won't do what's best for ourselves overall. So I like the new rules that we have. They're very, very difficult to play safety in the NFL, but still, this is a great option for you to continue playing your football career.
Before I respond, I want to ask you a question about what he said at the very end, because I do think some members of the media, especially people that didn't play, very often misconstrue playing style with personal character. And he was angry that because he's been fined for some hits, people have talked as if he's a bad guy, where he talked about the money he donates to charities, the things he does in his community. Like, as a player, as not even just as a player, but as someone that watches the commentary on the league, how has that always felt with you when guys take how you play on the field?
I haven't heard that about Mike Mitchell. Okay, so I think that a lot of times for all the guys, I don't read anything, I don't watch anything, I don't hear anything. You know what I mean? That means they hear everything. Okay? Defensive players, especially secondary players, they have to be very, very aggressive. And I don't think that the general public takes this snapshot of what a guy does on the field and takes that to be that's the type of human being that he is.
Oh,
can I just ask one question? And I think we keep talking about it, but maybe we need one quick explainer. Can you just tell us what a little sort of overlay of what the new rules are, like what these new rules are in place to help players, protect their safety during the game?
You can't hit a player, even offense or defense, above the neckline. Like, you can't hit him here. You can't hit him in his neck. You can't hit him anywhere above this. Now, as far as a defenseless player, that's the hardest call. Defenseless is if someone is going for the ball and they can't protect themselves. Wide receivers, tight ends, running backs, going against defensive backs, and typically safeties. So when the ball is in the air, when you get to the moment of truth, they have deemed that guy
defenseless.
Defenseless.
Right. You got to aim below the head. And where it gets a little confusing is running backs while they're running with the football are the least protected guys in the league. Those guys, it's almost inevitable there's going to be helmet to helmet.
Well, they're not defenseless.
Right. Exactly. Well, you said at the beginning you can't hit any player above the neckline. But if you're running with the football, like between the tackles, you're going to get hit like that. That's just an inevitable part of the game.
And you can't block a player above the neckline.
Correct. All right. So now I'm going to say something, CC, that I think you're going to think is ludicrous. But I'm going to ask you to stay with me.
It won't be my first or my last.
Okay. All right. So tell me if I have this right. The NFL has made it clear intent is not a part of this, right?
It's hard to judge intent.
But they've also made it clear, even if we believe you had no malice in your heart, so to speak, no ill will, it was the receiver ducked his head at the last minute, it was head-to-head, you can still be flagged and fined for that.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
So we are saying even if a defensive player is trying to do the right thing, it can still be against the rules, it can still result in a flag, and it can still result in a fine. What Mike Mitchell alludes to with Andy Dalton there, I would take it a step further. If there is a play that results in a defensive player being fined, I am absolutely okay with, and I think it follows the same logical track of the NFL reviewing the tape and saying, does the quarterback have some culpability here? The quarterback wanted to throw a perfect ball. The quarterback didn't want to lead him into contact. His intent was fine, but he did. He didn't throw it where he wanted to. That was a part and parcel with the wide receiver being hit illegally, and he should be fined as well. Why should
hard to prove, Nick?
Well, no. Guys know all the time, was that an accurate throw or an inaccurate throw? Like, you're not going to get it one-to-one every time. Why is that? Why is that not even considered?
That's impossible, Nick. This is not a video game.
Mm-hmm.
All right? It's like real live action.
Yeah.
What if someone flashed around his feet?
But
okay. No. What if someone flashes around his feet?
Yeah.
Okay, the left guard misses his block.
Yeah.
Someone crawls on his feet. He can't put enough on the throw. The ball tails a little bit, causes the tight end to drift to the safety.
Agreed.
So what should the punishment be?
Well, the same thing that happens. You think these safeties would, in perfect circumstances, you don't think they're running around guys? They have the same type of things they're dealing with when safeties are not typically trying to hit guys in the head. It is the.
What are they trying to do then, Nick?
We talked about George Iloka wasn't trying to hit.
No, he wasn't trying to, but that's what safeties normally do, though. They're trying to separate you from the ball.
Trying to separate.
So for you thinking that that's not their reputation, No, that is their reputation. If they didn't change the rules, more guys would get hurt.
Of course, I understand that. But you added all these things that can lead to a quarterback throwing a bad ball or throwing a ball not exactly perfect.
Yeah, they're not robots.
Of course, but neither are the defensive players.
Of course.
And so then we're in agreement on that.
Well, then what if an offensive lineman misses their block or something? Should we blame them for then someone gets to the quarterback and then he throws an errant pass?
If you hold an offensive lineman holds a guy, the guy falls down, he ends up getting fined for hitting a quarterback low.
Taking it to an illogical.
Listen, there's a. Why is it an illogical place? Why is it only the defensive?
Because you can't prove. I don't think you can prove intent. You can't prove exactly what the quarterbacks think. There are too many variables within each play.
I said in the beginning, intent.
You're getting ready to make football far more complicated than the game that I'm used to.
Hold on.
And the game that I love.
No, I'm not. This is not. When the NFL is reviewing the plays that they are after the game, deciding who gets fined, right, CC? Why is it only the guy hitting the player that is part of the culpability of it?
Well, why don't we just fine the offensive coordinator for calling a bad damn play, too?
Well, so you guys, I understand you're trying.
Yeah, why don't we do that? Well, what if the wind blows? What if a gust of wind? The wind blew the ball.
Too many variables to be able to take it that far.
You can't do that.
But we don't incorporate any of the variables with the defensive player. You don't think there's variables that have to go into with the safety trying to separate him from the football?
This is the thing, Nick. It's the toughest position to play with the new rules. You have to accept that. If not, Nick, we got some other opportunities for you. You don't have to play in the NFL. Oh. Hey, Mike Mitchell, you don't have to play. Watch us play football next Sunday, since you think you're so important to the game. All right? If you don't want to play by the rules, you don't have to play. And there's 100 people that would be lined up to take your job. Since your job is so complicated, all the other players have adjusted. Adjust to the new rules.
I agree with you to adjust to the new rules. But when we talked about Nate Peterman, right, a few weeks ago, you talked about the play that he got complimented for by his coach. That was a ball that got another player hurt.
Right.
The point that I'm simply making is we have a standard that only applies to a specific subset of players, which is intent doesn't matter. It's just the results. And I bet Mike Mitchell or other defensive players would feel better about it if intent didn't matter. It was just the results across the board as far as fines, not flags, but post-game fines.
So when Darryl Stingley got paralyzed playing football, they should fine the quarterback? No. They should fine the quarterback.
If we are going to that, I'm going to be honest with you, on that specific play, I don't know how the ball was thrown.
The ball was thrown, let him inside.
Let him inside?
Yes.
If we're in a spot where we're fining Mike Mitchell $50,000 for a play that would have been a clean hit.
You can't hit a guy in his head.
Right.
You see the guy moving, okay? You either play the ball or play the player, Nick. All right? That's his job. That's his job as a defender. Either play the ball or play the player. And when you're playing the player, Nick, you just can't hit him in his head. You can hit him. Eifert's 6'6". You can have the rest of that. You can hit it wherever you want to. That's his job. It's part of his job description. Adjust to the game. That's your responsibility.
Welcome back to First Things First. Mark Schlereth joins us now. Hey, Mark.
Stank? How are you guys?
How's it going?
I had to go to the bullpen.
It's good, man. I was sitting over there listening to you guys arguing. I loved it.
You're not coming in as Mark Schlereth or Stink Schlereth. You're coming in as your son. I need a relief pitcher.
You need, okay.
Yeah, I need you to throw some.
Cece's coming in hot this morning. Coming in hot.
I got up this morning, got a nice workout
right here,
in.
right
I didn't think
Bring in the lefty.
Really?
Man, I did.
Bring in the lefty.
Did
Cece
you
was
really?
up early, yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, but I didn't.
I'm done for the day.
I'm going to need a nap after this guy.
I love it.
I got a theory for you.
Thursday night football.
The team that scores the most points is going to win.
Starring. Who are we starring? Starring the Saints and the Falcons. New Orleans at 9-3 in Atlanta to face the 7-5 Falcons. So Atlanta's coming off that loss to Minnesota, currently on the outside of that NFC playoff picture. Here's Matt Ryan on if the Falcons need to run the table to make the postseason.
Whatever the case may be, it doesn't matter if we don't take care of business Thursday. So beyond that, I don't really worry about all that stuff. I think sometimes, if you're focused on too many things, I'm not smart enough to focus on that many things. I'm better off just concentrating on one task at a time.
All right, Mark, let's focus on the Atlanta portion of this. Judging by where they are right now in the playoff picture, is this a must-win game for them?
I think it's a must-win game because of their schedule and because it's Thursday night. See, Thursday night is so difficult because you don't have time to really prep, to really game plan. So you're going to run your base stuff versus their base stuff. If you're New Orleans, man, you get Monday to try to recoup. You do a walkthrough on Tuesday, and Wednesday, bam, you're on a plane. So you're there. And it is really difficult. Your body hasn't adjusted. You have to travel. You can't game plan. So the advantage, there's a decided advantage that goes to the home team. Now, you have 2 against New Orleans. You have 1 against Carolina. And you have 1 against Tampa. So I look at this from a Thursday night perspective at home. Yes, it's a must-win because this is the one that sets up the best for you. Going on the road to New Orleans in a regular week, it's going to be hard to win there. This is the one you have to find a way to win a Thursday night game because there is such a disadvantage to the road team on Thursday night. It is, I mean, me personally, it's not real football, but these are the rules that we play with. This is where we find ourselves, and so you have to find a way to win a Thursday night game. Atlanta has a huge advantage. You've got to take it. You've got to take that advantage and make it your own.
Yeah, and the league has done a good job as far as making these divisional games. You know your divisional opponents. Typically, the location is a lot closer. Typically, so there's less preparation because you have intel from years before or one earlier game that season. So that does help out in a bad situation as far as the preparation. To me, Atlanta, you think the schedule is tough going out. Let's not forget who they're coming off a game with. That was a physical game Sunday against the Vikings. I mean, that was a knockdown, drag out, and Atlanta was just starting to get their little swagger back. Then they ran into potentially the best team in the NFC. So they got knocked back. So for me, this is a huge game, not only because of the games coming up, but because of the physical toll and the mental swing that this team was getting ready to make. Nick, you made a great point that I had no clue of. Last week when Atlanta was 6-5, that's the same place they were last year, which ended up leading them to the Super Bowl. So I was like, whoa, I got this guy over here for a reason. Every once in a while, those numbers don't lie.
They're a talented football team. I almost went Austin Powers when I started that thing. I almost said they've got to take advantage of this advantage.
Yeah,
Allowed myself to introduce myself. I caught myself and I was like, wait a minute, are you that dumb? And I thought, yeah, I am that dumb.
You got out of it. You dug in.
I was backpedaling. I was like a DB back there.
It was good.
Like you didn't get hit in the neck and your head.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
CC.
It would have been his fault.
When we talked about the college football playoff, we talked about Alabama always scheduling Mercer or Chattanooga or someone the week before the Auburn game. Why is that? It's because the physical toll on your body from playing a competitive SEC opponent or a big-time team, it shows up a full week later, much less 4 days later. So the fact that Atlanta is coming off of the Vikings game is noteworthy. Now, in fairness, New Orleans is coming off a physical game against Carolina, but Carolina, I watched that whole game because I lost a lot of money on that game. Like, Carolina's defense played one of its worst games of the year.
Yes.
Neither team is going to feel great today.
And I'm going to tell you, in a short period of time, it's just mental. The team that won, hey, man, how you feel? I feel pretty good, bro. The team that lost, oh, my God, my body's killing me. And the pressure to not have an elongated losing streak.
Right, and so the question is this a must-win? And I say absolutely it is. Because when Atlanta, you mentioned the schedule of their final 4, 2 against New Orleans, 1 against Carolina, and then a game against Tampa Bay. But also because Atlanta, to me, is a misleading 7-5. Like, you've got to look at how they got those 7 victories. We can go to week 1, where they almost lost to Chicago twice. Balls in the end zone, 1 dropped, 1 just short. Week 3, they did lose to Detroit. The referee said, game over, Detroit wins. Then they went and reviewed it, remember? That was the Golden Tate at the goal line game. The other wins, they beat the Jets. They beat Dallas in their first game without Zeke. They beat Seattle in their first game without Cam and Richard Sherman. And they beat Tampa Bay. They have one great win this year. The game in week 2 where they beat Green Bay, which seems to just be a bad matchup for Green Bay. So Atlanta's 7-5 easily is 6-6, 5-7. And so I think New Orleans is one of the best teams in the league.
But this is a New Orleans team that's going to be playing most likely maybe without Brian Ingram and without Lattimore. So they've got two of their big guys
Mark Ingram,
yes. rather, who are questionable for this game. So that could be a big advantage for the Falcons as well.
Well, I mean, Thursday nights are hard to play. Like I said, the advantage goes to the home team. There is no question. And you look at Atlanta, and you know, you can look at all those schedules and you can look at the close wins and the close losses. Let me just tell you, having called one of their games, that is one of the most athletic teams in National Football League.
Yes.
Bar none. If you put a 4x100 team together and you pick just nothing but Atlanta, I think they may win it with guys like Julio Jones and Taylor Gabriel and you know,
Coleman,
Trufant.
Yeah.
And, they can flat run. They're a super athletic team. There is no question. You have to understand that it's been a work in progress with Matt Ryan and Steve Sarkisian calling plays because that rhythm has not necessarily been there. And they also have been without Freeman for a couple of games. So they've had their issues as well. But make no bones about it. That is an exceptionally talented team. And when they're clicking, they're going to be hard for anybody to beat.
Well, you mentioned Sarkisian and Matt Ryan getting on the same page. I think it's difficult to be the offensive coordinator for this team because you look at their weapons as far as in the passing game. You look at the MVP quarterback, Julio Jones, one of the two best wide receivers in the league, and you think the key to this offense is throwing the football. But last year, quietly, what were the Falcons awesome at? The two running backs getting the ball, being handed off or throwing it to them.
Same thing the Saints are doing.
Right, exactly right. So this year, the Falcons are 7-1 when their running backs get at least 25 touches. They're 0-4 when they don't. That doesn't mean you have to hand it to them 25 times. Just throw it to them out of the backfield, getting those mismatches on linebackers. Like, that's a part of their offense that was a huge part last year. Hasn't been as big of a part this year.
While I was doing that game, I had a statistical breakdown of their last 4 games before I did that. This was a couple of weeks ago. And Julio Jones, if he is targeted in a drive, that drive averages about 40.9 yards per play and yields over 3 points a play. If he is not targeted in a drive, it yields about 28 yards per drive and 1.7 points per play. So you can talk about running the ball, and it's important, but a lot of that running opens up that play action, opens up number 11. And let me just tell you this, number 11, freak show. Okay, that's what he is. Like, I was on the field just like, man, it ain't fair. Yeah, I was like standing on the field next to him going, not fair.
Yeah, he's got a great body.
Oh, my goodness, that dude, freak show.
He's got a great body.
Welcome back to First Things First. We're now joined by Danny Cannell. Hey, Danny. Welcome back.
Good
nice
morning.
to see you.
Get this man a cigar and a snifter.
No, he looks comfortable.
Maybe a pipe. Look at my man, Danny Cannell.
He looks comfortable. You wear it well, Danny.
Listen.
No, it's all good.
That outfit right there is strategic, okay? This man, listen, I know this guy, all right? He's got a schedule. He's going to make so many appearances this week. You know you got the big college football thing, so let me lay out my outfits. First things first.
Right.
Let me hit him with this.
I gotta bring the A game. I gotta bring the A game to this show.
I understand. Much respect.
Awesome.
All right. Well, with that A-game outfit, let's go right to the internet, specifically Odell Beckham's Instagram. The back-and-forth video you are looking at comparing Odell and Tom Brady was posted by Odell himself. He had also tweeted about Brady earlier this week, saying, quote, "I'm following his lead. I just may not know how to express it in the same way." Both guys are clearly passionate. So, Danny, I ask you, is there a double standard in the way they are treated for their antics, both Odell Beckham Jr. and Tom Brady?
100% yes. And I am 100% okay with it because there is a hierarchy in the NFL, and you earn the respect of the league, of your opponents, of your teammates. And Tom Brady has clearly earned the right to act any way he wants to, really. I mean, he is in a stratosphere that nobody else is even considered. And I think this is part of a growth process for Odell Beckham Jr. He's still learning what he can and can't get away with. And it's been an ugly process so far for Odell. Has struggled with how to handle himself, how to act like a professional. I don't think anybody would get upset with Odell Beckham if he's animated, upset, throwing stuff because his team is losing, because he wants to win. There's nothing wrong with that. He'll never get criticized for that. But when you start getting penalties, getting ejected, preventing your team from winning, that's when you become a distraction and start taking it seriously.
But that's not what's, aside from the Josh Norman game, Odell's not a guy that's gotten penalties prior to the peeing the dog celebration, right? It is typically about winning and about his team struggles. It's not. I haven't seen Odell do what we talked about Antonio Brown doing, which was getting upset because he didn't get the ball. It's almost always been about team stuff. And as far as earning
that part right there, I don't think you can prove, or that part right there, I don't believe to be true. That every time he complained, it was about the team. There is no wide receiver. And I know A.J. Green, I'm talking about even Calvin Johnson, Larry Fitzgerald. Man, they might be quiet. There ain't no wide receiver that don't want the football.
Agreed.
It wasn't like he was saying, you know something? We need to run that inside blast play a few more times. So, no, listen.
Cece, I agree with you on that point. Maybe I didn't say mine correctly. Antonio Brown did his in a game his team was winning, that they won, that they were playing well. That's not when we've seen these from Odell. Maybe it's been, I didn't get the ball, but it's been the context of, we're losing this game, I want to win this game, which is, I don't know how. It's surprising to me to hear someone say, of course he's doing the exact same thing Brady's doing. Of course they're treated differently. And of course I'm okay with it. Like, why? Like, why be okay with it? By the way, for the record, I'm okay with it for both of them. Right. But I don't know how you can
And I don't know how much Odell has been criticized for some of those things he put in the video. Like, he was criticized for urinating like a dog. He was criticized for some of the other proposing to the net, doing some things that are just kind of silly and immature. I don't think he's been criticized as much as he makes it out to be just for being animated because he didn't get a ball thrown to him or they didn't score or he's frustrated with the offense. He gets some heat, but I think Brady got questioned about it, but Brady knows how to handle it after, too. Like he said, hey, it's me and Josh, we're good. Like, and squishes it, whereas Odell, I think, kind of keeps it going. I think he holds that chip on his shoulder, feels like the media's out to get him because of the entirety of the way he's been treated as a professional.
I think that you can't make the comparison. For one, you can't make a comparison to Tom Brady, where he's at in his career, what he's represented on and off the field, how he's conducted himself, his emotions on the field. Tom Brady has never done anything that crossed the line. Like myself, Danny, you're probably more familiar. I was known as a very animated, emotional player. Not necessarily as emotional as Odell Beckham. And full disclosure, one of the things in meeting and mentoring with Odell this year was that was something he wanted to work on. I didn't bring it up. He said it. Now, Tom Brady this offseason, I guarantee you, he wasn't working on that because it's not a problem with him. It's not something that you're going to see all the time. And he does it in a fashion. Tom Brady is under so much pressure. When does he ever have a chance to let off any steam? When does he ever have a chance to not just be dang on perfect? Josh McDaniel told him the guy's wide open. Tom Brady said, damn, I know that. I know he's wide open. Don't you think I was trying to hit him? You think I tried to throw the ball over his head? Don't you think I saw him, Josh? Don't you think that? That's what Tom Brady said. So that's what we're here debating. We're not on some side kicking net. We're not some guy crying on the sideline. We're not hearing rumors about reports on the team that he's treated totally different than the other players. We're not hearing about the South Beach trip before the playoffs. So trying to compare the two is just not fair to either one. And I personally know Odell and know that he's made this a priority. Yes, he sent out the tweet and everything, but privately, like all of us are working on things privately, this is something that he's working on.
But him sending out the tweet is making it worse for him. Like, him sending out this video is only bringing potential back to him.
Odell's biggest problem is this year he didn't get to play. And really the first time we saw him this year was the celebration in the end zone. But this was the year that he was going to show more maturity. We didn't get a chance to see it. So now how can he react? Because when he sees that, Odell thinks there is a double standard. When he sees it, the only way he can react is through social media when, if he had been playing, we would have been able to see on the field how he progressed.
I just don't understand why you needed to do it. So it speaks to what you said. You're bringing attention to something that doesn't need attention to, and it's exactly
this is the thing.
Tom Brady.
Odell's got the right to do what.
Of course he does. But Tom Brady, when you compare him to Tom Brady, you said Tom Brady doesn't have all those other things that Odell did, the other distractions, right, or whatever you would call them. So why? He wouldn't compare. He would never put a video out comparing himself to anyone else. I know where he is in his career. There was no reason for Odell Beckham Jr. at this point to put this video out when you haven't played this season. No one's talking about it. All it's going to do is bring negative attention to something that's completely unnecessary.
Negative attention in your eyes. In Odell's eyes,
that's true.
Here's why I'm doing it. That video, whoever made it, I'm guessing Odell wasn't in Pro Tools editing it, but whoever made it did a great job. Yes. Those were one-to-one examples. It was close to apples as you will ever get in the NFL. Here's me, here's Brady. Here's me, here's Brady. And Odell intentionally did it so people will have this conversation. Maybe it won't sway you.
But why? Why would you want to create that?
Well, also, listen to the message, guys. Wait a second. Listen to what he said in the message. Maybe I don't go about doing it the right way. Let's not forget the words.
This is example number one of how not to do it.
But he said, I'm chasing something, and I haven't perfected that yet. So he's also admitting I don't have this part right. But he's also admitting that there is a double standard, which there's always a double standard.
Absolutely.
And there always is.
He's not justifying the kicking net or the celebrate. You know what was not in there? Ear-holing Josh Norman, proposing to the kicking net, the dog celebration, the indefensible stuff, even though the kicking net I don't care about at all. But what he is saying is part of what makes, I think what Odell was trying to communicate is this. Part of what makes the greats great is an insatiable desire to win that sometimes bubbles over in fits of passion. And he finds it unfair, and I agree with him, that when some guys, particularly quarterbacks, usually pretty often white quarterbacks, because Cam doesn't get this berth either, it is considered passion.
Cam does more celebrating than the Rockettes. Okay? So don't bring no black whites. Cam celebrates than the last 20 generations of any type of player. Okay. I mean, my goodness, no player draws more attention for a simple first down than Superman.
Okay, fair enough if you don't want to bring Cam into it or if you don't want to like the comparison. But Odell's point that certain guys, Des Bryant, Jason Witten, when one guy is yelling, it's leadership. When the other guy's yelling, it's a distraction.
Danny, growing up, I'm going to take the chance. Who's your favorite quarterback, Danny?
Oh, you know who it was. 13. Yes.
What 13
Dan Marino.
What 13 do?
Oh, he used to lay into Mark Duper, Mark Clayton.
Did he used to meet the wide receivers down in between the routes?
Oh, he would dress them down like you've never seen before.
Right. Dan Marino is a few shades more than Brady, but we've seen other quarterbacks do that, and none of us had a problem with Dan Marino because you know what we thought? We thought that was great leadership, and we thought that was him.
But isn't that Odell's point? That those guys, it gets to be considered leadership and authentic.
This is the thing. Odell has crossed the line, though, Nick. There ain't no need for you to make no excuses for him. And when I tell him this all the time, crossing the line is crossing the line. Tom Brady has never crossed the line. Zero.
That's what I was saying. He just doesn't have. He couldn't even make a video like that if he wanted to. So the reason people have that in their head is because they've seen.
So we're not allowed to separate the two. We're not allowed to say these actions that I'm criticized for are fair. These actions that I'm criticized for are unfair.
If you're going to compare yourself to Tom Brady and say why can't we both do the same thing? He's had other things Tom Brady hasn't. So you can't just pick three random things and say, look, we're exactly the same. We get treated differently.
And in all of this, there's a point where you earn the right to act any way you want to. And with 5 Super Bowls, you can't. Did any of those videos of Brady come from the first 5, 6, 7 years of his career? No, because he didn't go there because he didn't feel he had the clout. You have to earn that respect to act that way.
Hey, Cris, how are you?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Do you want to know where Steph went to school? I don't think so.
I'm learning a lot.
I know you are. We're all about education here. All right. You know, whenever we do a story about the Cavs, it's always like LeBron did this, this, and this, and then the Cavs won. That's how it usually goes. Well, here's another one of those stories. Cleveland beat the Kings for their 13th straight win. LeBron had a casual 32 points, 11 rebounds, 9 assists. So why does this just feel like the norm for him? Here he is talking before the game yesterday.
I think people just grown accustomed of what I do, and you know, it gets taken for granted at times of what I do. You know, and because I do it so often, and it's been a constant thing for so long. It's like, oh, yeah, that's what LeBron's supposed to do. You know, so it looks easy, but it's not.
You did something.
So LeBron thinks people have just grown accustomed to what he does every night, which there is some truth to that. What do you think, Chris? Is LeBron taken for granted night in and night out?
I think there's something to what he said. Look, we're naturally inclined to be drawn to the shiny new thing, right? In 2011, it was Derrick Rose. A few years later, it was Kevin Durant. Recently, it's been Steph Curry. And LeBron has been this good really since, what, 04, 05, when he started to really take off in his career. So there's that. And there's also voter fatigue when it comes to MVP voting. Look, I've been an MVP voter for a long time. There are times when you kind of reflexively lean towards the new guy. When Rose was making his run and Durant and Curry. I think LeBron got absolutely robbed back in 2011 when Derrick Rose won his MVP. He was great that year. But we were all still pissed off at LeBron for leaving Cleveland and going down to Miami. Yes. Same thing with the Durant MVP a few years later. You easily could have voted for LeBron James. So absolutely, on some level, we take LeBron James for granted.
And on the MVP voting, it's not just that he hasn't won it. It's that 2 years ago, he finished third behind Kawhi Leonard. Last year, he finished fourth behind Kawhi Leonard and James Harden. Obviously, 2 years ago, Steph won it last year. Russ won it. So it's not just that he's not winning the MVP. It's that he's objectively better at every phase of the offensive game than Kawhi Leonard. Yeah. His teams had a better chance of winning the title than Kawhi's. Like, there's the only, if you flip-flopped their offensive numbers, it wouldn't even be a question. What I think's interesting about LeBron these last 2 years is he's somehow, statistically, it's the best we've ever seen him. This year, it's his career best field goal percentage, three-point percentage, and blocks per game. It's his second best rebounds and assists per game, second only to last year. So he's at his best, career best, everything in the last 2 years except for points per game. And we've never seen that from a guy, year 14 and 15. The closest we've seen to this type of longevity is Karl Malone, and that was his calling card, was the longevity late into his career. And that's the part that I think is jarring people loose of taking LeBron for granted, is the number year 15. They're like, wow, he's doing this in year 15. For some reason, that sounds so different than year 13 or year 14.
I just think as sports fans, too, that we have the... it's like when kids leave college in basketball or football, we pick out everything that they can't do. Like all of a sudden, these kids are superstars. Baker Mayfield, for example. We're everything. Oh, no, he's not 6'2". Oh, he can't be the next Drew Brees. Oh, is he going to be a good leader? Like, this is what we do. And we've done that to LeBron ever since he's getting too much hype. His high school games are on television. Then he comes to Cleveland, and actually it's one of the few people that we've seen who was a prodigy who actually lived up to the hype, all right? Took his team to the finals. Oh, then he's leaving, so now he's the villain. So that takes a part in the voting, but LeBron's biggest enemy is himself. It's the standard that he has set, all right? Now, we can blame it on writers, we can blame it on reporters, on fans, but when you have played as good as he has played, he's his own worst enemy. His standard is so high. And we like to pick things apart. And like you mentioned, the younger, the newer, the shiny toy, the 2018 model. Well, let's get that. Let's talk about Giannis. Giannis is playing phenomenal. He's not playing as good as LeBron. And I think a good example for that is Tom Brady. Tom Brady has set the example, the bar so high as far as what we expect is like, oh, it's just another game. No, he was brilliant.
And he gets credit for it, though. He gets MVP awards in his.
We don't give Tom Brady credit enough because you know what we do? Oh, how good. Well, what would he do without Belichick? Well, he don't have to play without Belichick. You know, what would he do without the New England organization? So we take points away from them either because of where they play or we make some type of excuse of why someone is better. Look at golf this year with the Rams, his emergence. Let's look at Carson Wentz. Oh, he should be the MVP. Well, Tom Brady has played as well, and if Tom Brady was younger, he would be the runaway vote getter right now for the MVP, and it's the same thing I think as LeBron.
Let me tell you the difference with LeBron this year and why I think he's going to ultimately win MVP. Look, I was one of the Washington Post voters. I said James Harden was my MVP early, largely because when Chris Paul went down, James Harden took off and the Rockets kept winning, whereas LeBron right now still has losses to the Pelicans and the Nets and early season struggles on his resume, but it's still early December. I think he's going to get to the MVP because he's doing more in the early part of this season that I've seen him do in early parts of seasons seasons ever before. I had this conversation with David Griffin, the former GM of the Cavs, and he said, Chris, forget about the minutes that LeBron's playing. Look at the type of minutes that he's playing. He's out there having to score at the end of games, big, like end of a Memphis game, the Sacramento game.
Yes.
This is not stuff you're used to seeing from LeBron early season. I won't say he's coasted early season before, but he's picked his spots at times before. He's taken time off midseason before. This year, you're not seeing that. You're seeing full throttle LeBron James from game one, and that's why I think he's going to win it.
Quick question. How much of that is because he feels like he got snubbed last year? How much of that is because he's like, you know what? Maybe these guys don't think I was the MVP. Let me play more minutes. Let me play more games. Let me not sit the pine the way everyone in the league complained that they paid for tickets and I wasn't out there. Like, how much of what he's doing now do you think is because he's carrying a little bit of that?
Look, I think there's a part of LeBron that wants to win MVP every year. I don't doubt that. But I also think that LeBron is looking at his team and realizing that if I'm not playing at a 10, I'm going to lose. Look, we don't need to go back down the rabbit hole that we did last time of the Cavaliers and the Celtics.
No, you were great. No, you were great.
But let me just say this, like, LeBron is having to score 7 points in 90 seconds to beat Memphis, a double-digit streak losing team. He has to score the game winner to beat Sacramento, a team that, let's be honest, doesn't have any problem with losing this year.
Right.
Yes.
Like, he has to do all this. I think that's more important to LeBron than winning any more hardware.
I think one of the reasons, to get to LeBron's quote being taken for granted, is because one of the things that's always worked against LeBron is, in a weird way, is his basketball IQ. He will, listen, if the better shot is a pass, I'm going to make that pass even if I'm going to get killed for it. I'm going to set ego aside. And so last year, what was the narrative with the Cavs was LeBron's their best player, but Kyrie's their closer. And you know what? Kyrie was their closer. LeBron recognized this is something Kyrie is great at. It's actually, of all parts of Kyrie's game, the thing I think he's the best at. Closing basketball games is where he is better than almost anyone in the sport.
Seeing that this year.
Right, you're seeing it this year. He has been brilliant at Boston late in games. But what are we also seeing this year? LeBron could have been doing that too. LeBron saw, this is my number 2, this is where he thrives, I'm going to let him have that shine. But now this year, the only guy leading Kyrie in fourth quarter points is LeBron. The only guy leading Kyrie in clutch points and clutch field goal percentage is LeBron. So there's something he could have been the best at, but his teammate loved it and was great at it. I'm going to let you handle this. And so that's worked against him as far as the way people are viewing him nationally. This year, he has no choice. Like, he's got to be that guy for Cleveland.
Chris, I think the injury early in training camp did motivate him. Also, what he's seeing going on in Boston. I believe LeBron James sees everything, hears everything. That streak, that overall chemistry, Boston got LeBron's attention too.
Well, there's no question the injury has factored into the amount of minutes he's trying to play. He's literally working himself back into shape right now. He hasn't had an experience like a 10-day, I think it was, ankle injury. I think you're right to some degree with Boston. Like, LeBron consistently refers to Kyrie as the kid, and there is a method to that madness. He is trying to, I think, in some ways diminish Kyrie Irving. This young guy doing his thing in Boston. Everybody is talking about the Celtics, and no doubt that has gotten LeBron's attention.
Back here, first things first, the Golden State Warriors took the court last night without Steph Curry or Draymond Green. Curry's out for a while with that sprained ankle. Draymond is day-to-day with a shoulder injury. So onward and, after last night, upward for the Warriors as they beat the Hornets 101-87. Kevin Durant, who's now playing the role of the man, pulled his weight, 35 points, 11 rebounds, 10 assists. Here he is after the game.
It's fun when you get to create and, just be creative out there, whether it's, passing to JaVale for a lob or shooting a pull-up jump shot. It's just, all the stuff that you work on in those situations. Tonight it felt like I can go in my bag of tools, my bag of tricks to pull some stuff out. So I don't expect it to be like that every single game, but tonight I thought it called for it.
So this is exactly what we talked about yesterday that we wanted to see happen. Give Kevin Durant the torch a little, let him go out there and sort of be the guy for a little bit, and he was sort of the guy last night. Was this a statement game for Kevin Durant, Nick?
I don't think it was a statement game. I think Kevin Durant did exactly what his team needed him to do, which was go out there when they were without their admitted leader in Steph Curry, without their emotional leader in Draymond Green, and go out there and be the best player on the court and lead your team to a victory in a game you were only a 3-point favorite. Like, this was a game Vegas said they thought would be close with the Warriors going to Charlotte. And watching this game last night, CC, it made me a little wistful because I wish that this is what we got to see from Durant regularly. Kevin Durant on a regular, really good NBA team. Kevin Durant with another top 15 guy as his Robin out there each night having to be trying to prove to the world he's the best player in the world, right? He's not. He's the second best player, but play like that. Go out there each night where, you know what, I am out here to, why are we going to win? Because I'm better than all you guys. I'm going to be the best scorer. I'm going to be the best passer on the team. I'm going to be my team's best rim defender tonight.
And I'm going to be a leader.
I'm going to do all of it. And so Durant stepped up last night. They ended up blowing the Hornets out, but they don't win this game without Durant being as good as he was, and I give him all the credit in the world for it. It's the Kevin Durant that we've known for the last 7 years is there that we just haven't gotten to see as much as I'd like.
Yeah, not surprised at all, especially going against Charlotte. It was a great opportunity for him. I think that, you know, Kevin, based on all the private accounts and all that, that he listens to a lot of, you know, media, social media. So I think that he understood what was going on with the team. And then the team decided to also sit Draymond. So I think that even though it put more pressure on him, it also, what I saw was a free Kevin Durant. Like on the court, he had the ball more in his hand. He looked a lot happier. He didn't look stressed. And that's the Kevin Durant that we saw from the first time he came into the NBA. He struggled a little bit his rookie year, but he is a scoring machine. He is a fantastic basketball player. And for me, I don't get caught up in people's disappointment in him going from OKC with that decision to go to Golden State. He's still one of the greatest players in the world. And last night you were able to see that because it's not polluted with, oh, you got Steph there. Oh, you have Draymond there.
Right.
This is really how good he is.
Right. I love what you said. It was a free KD. It was Kevin Durant out there, just minus everything else, all the noise, all the shenanigans, just go out there and play basketball when the team needs you without the two other guys on your team who you call the most valuable and the most important two guys, without Draymond and without Steph Curry. And Kevin Durant was able to go out and be the guy that he always was.
And this is something I would like to see moving forward once Steph comes back. The Warriors, one of the things that they were so applauded for was the lack of egos last year. That Steph, the two-time reigning MVP, welcomes in the most recent MVP other than him. They're like, hey, it doesn't matter who's the best guy. We can all share. I would like to see, just as a basketball fan, these two guys not have a bad rivalry, but try to one-up each other. Try to these guys are vying for who's the best player in the league not named LeBron James. And I would like to see them each really go for it. Because when LeBron got with Wade, there was no question who's better. When LeBron went back with Cleveland, with Kyrie, there's no question who's better. When the Celtics Big Three came together, everyone knew Kevin Garnett's the best player. It's rare that there's a real question, who's the best player on a team? And these two guys are such special players. When Steph comes back, I'd like to see Steph come out and be like, you know what, I'm going to remind everyone I'm the best guy on this team. Like, I don't think that'd be bad for the Warriors, and I think it'd be great for basketball.
Well, I think it's a tricky situation. I played with a guy named Randy Moss, and he was vying to try to be the best wide receiver. Jerry Rice was still playing, and of course, I was still in my prime. So there were days where, yes, that was a good recipe, but overall, in a team sport, it's not a winning formula. And the reason why is because you're dependent upon the other aspects of the team to be able to be at your absolute best. So it's hard to look side-eye at this other guy and say, you know something, I'm getting ready to top what he's doing, when every once in a while, Clay needs to get the ball. Every once in a while, Draymond, he'll throw a temper tantrum. So it's really hard to do. It's nice in theory. And sometimes Randy and I, we used to be able to do that, but we knew that we had to get Robert Smith the ball. We knew that we had to throw the ball to the tight end. So we could only be so greedy and so selfish.
Is there a differentiating factor, though, in that when you and Randy are playing together, because of the length of season, because of just the way the NFL is versus the NBA, you guys weren't goofing around during the game a lot. This Warriors team as is right now is throwing halves of basketball away. We'll be down by 20, it doesn't matter. So they are already using parts of the game just with almost just whatever. We're going to out-talent them at the end. So do you see the distinction that I'm drawing there?
I see what you're trying to do, but I still think it's in their best interest because they're playing a team sport.
Guys,
it's not double. It's not the Bryant brothers playing tennis, all right? Like, there's still 3 other guys out there that you have to be cognizant of them and what they need to do. You just can't, it's not horse, all right? I'm going to make a shot, now you make a shot. Collectively, if they're both at their best, they will reach their potential, not absent of each other. This,
I think, is the rare feat. We always see 1 and 1A. We saw Jordan and Pippen. You saw LeBron and Kyrie. We saw LeBron and Dwayne Wade. You very rarely see 2 guys that are 1 and 1 that don't have bad blood between them, that don't have a rivalry, that aren't fighting for possession, that aren't fighting for time, that aren't fighting for points, who are successful. I think that's the refreshing part. So do you want to see a rivalry between them, or do you want to see something that seemingly rare with these 2 guys getting along with success, playing on a team that is most likely going to go back to the finals?
Yeah, no, I mean, clearly what you're describing, what Cris is saying, has been a winning formula for them. Just as a basketball fan, and when the season can drag on a little bit in January and February, seeing these guys try to play a bit of horse, to me, would be enjoyable. I understand CeCe's point about it not being what's best for the team.
2 segments. You're 0 for 2.
Oh, give me this guy.
Thank you for listening to the First Things First podcast. Remember, leave us a review and tell us what you think. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts and catch us on FS1 Monday through Friday, 6:30 a.m. Eastern. For Cris Carter and Nick Wright, I'm Jenna Wolfe. So long, everybody.